Hello, everyone. My computer says it's recording in process. Um, Again, you can't see me again because I'm still having problems with this thing. I don't want to spend money. I guess I'm cheap, right? But if I have to, I will. I can wait because next week, you know, well, actually not next week. Let me get this correct. The 16th was a holiday, Martin Luther King, and I sent the wrong date with the video. So that should have been for the 23rd. Which you got, which would have been week 2. And the one I'm sending you today is for January the 30th, which will be week 3. So as long as we're set on that and we're on the same page, we'll get that together. Okay. So let me go through my usual procedure here. Fire the material. Start the slideshow. And then hit from the beginning. Okay. Move it up a bit. So again, ENG 107, College English Composition and Reading, our twofold class. And again, this is correctly put down, and this would be week 3 because, the 16th was Martin Luther King Day, so we have to skip that one, okay? All right. So let's get into this assignment, all right? So we're going to explore finding a topic. That's a lot of times it seems my students in the past, they just couldn't find a topic. That's why they do better when the teacher assigns them one. But American students are the opposite. They want to do their own. And the bad thing about that is sometimes they pick really silly stuff or useless stuff or stuff that's not thought out through enough that realize they can't write a full paper. So again, that might be a better idea if you have a class and the teacher assigns you one, okay? All right, so some people are lucky, it says here, I'm reading from the top left. When confronted with a writing task, they jump right in. Tapping away at their keyboards or scribbling notes on their notebook pages, generating text without, it seems, a second thought. They just hit it like a machine gun. Start writing. That might not be the case for most of us. They're the chatty ones. Chatty is an old term that's kind of disappeared. They used to have a nickname, Chatty Cathy. It was for a girl named Kathy who talked too much. So chatty ones generally means they talk too much, right? And here, I guess they're writing too quickly. So the chatty ones of the writing world, in the best possible way, of course, we're trying to say, I'm not making fun of anybody, what the author says. Chatting while you sit by, staring at your blank page, racking your brain, and pulling out your hair. Watching their sentences turn into paragraphs that turn into pages and pages, and you are jealous. So again, exactly what I just told you. Okay, so let's say I'm going to include myself in a group of slow writers or people that find it hard to find a topic when the teacher says, you make up your own topic. Uh-oh. I'm saying they're thinking through 100 choices, and the other ones who are quite chatty, or off the top of their head, they know what they're going to write about, lollipops and sheep. So then bing, 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 they start going, and I'll just look over there and words, sentences, paragraphs, a page, and I'm still sitting there. What am I going to write about? A monkey that likes hot dogs? Or am I going to write about how the Rams might lose their football coach? I don't know. So just backing up what I said. So it says here, we've all been there. Sometimes it's obvious what to write about, but many times it's not. Even if a topic seems clear, we might be missing out on an even better one because we get stuck on our initial idea. See, that's another issue. There's some students that just, they draw a blank, right? And other ones, they have a few good topics, but they just can't decide which one they want to use. Sometimes we think our ideas are dumb. It's another thing, someone with a negative feeling about their writing idea or their own ideas. No one would want to read what we have to say. Sometimes we get a writing assignment and get paralyzed by the length. I have to write 7 pages. It used to be like they would tell you, you have to write so many words, 5,000 words. You know, you'd say, oh, gotta write 5,000 words. 7 pages actually sounds less. You might think, there's nothing I could write on for 7 pages. It's just going to be a disaster. So the book here says, okay, stop. I'm trying to tell you, stop that negative thinking. You cannot let your internal editor take control this early in the process. In fact, your inner critic needs to step off until you get to editing. So what they're trying to say here is, don't over criticize your ability or your possible writing. Save it for the editing where most people are lazy, especially the chatty Cathys. They'll just write, and they say, oh, I think I wrote a masterpiece, you know? And then they get lazy, they don't want to edit because they think it's perfect. And it has all kinds of errors or meanings are juxtaposed over other ones. So don't be too hard on yourself. Save your criticism for the end of your paper when it's finished. At this point, you should relax your brain. This is the beginning. And get into a place of open curiosity, kind of like instead, think you're like, let's say if you go to a buffet restaurant, you don't get confused because they have so many items. You just know, okay, I'm going to have the salad first with that new dressing, and then I'm going to have some of these interesting vegetables. Then I'm going to come back for the fried chicken, a slice of beef. So you can prioritize these things instead of being, overwhelmed by what am I going to write about? So instead of being paralyzed by the endless possibilities, be excited by those possibilities and know that you'll be able to find topics and points to make with those topics that will lead to solid writing. And again, the positive aphorism, you can do it. So like I said, hopefully my buffet example is helpful, because eventually, okay, I'll eat all these stuff I want to eat. I'll just take my time. That's why you see some people, they go up there, like me, I'm just a 1 plate at a time guy, but some people go up there with 3 plates. So there you go. Next is the brainstorm. Brainstorming is a classic method of getting as many ideas out as possible while avoiding all judgment on those ideas. It's the first suggestion for exploration because it's entirely natural. As soon as you get a writing assignment, your brain is flipping through ideas, even if you aren't consciously aware of it. In brainstorming, you're doing the same thing as running through ideas in your mind, only you're writing them down as you think of them. So it's like those people that tend to dream a lot, and sometimes they can't remember the dream and it makes them upset. They really want to remember the dream. So before they go to sleep, they'll put a notebook next to their bed and a pen so that when they wake up from the dream, the first thing they do is start writing. So it's kind of like your brainstorming analogy here. Okay. How you brainstorm will depend on the type of writing assignment you're given. Let's say you've been assigned an informative essay, so you have to inform. And it can be about whatever you want. That's probably the most open writing assignment you can be given. And this kind of assignment can be paralyzing. There are too many choices. This may even happen in a work situation. I kind of think the opposite in that direction, because you can almost get work. I mean, you can't plagiarize and just copy someone, but they're going to inform. I mean, a lot of times those make people like confident in speech class. They get all this information about what percentage of people smoke, how they get sick, how they die, and you acquire all these facts, and the paper kind of writes itself for you. So that's my take on the informative writing. Next is free writing. Free writing is just that, free writing. All it costs you is some time. Get a cup of coffee. You're doing it late at night. Free writing allows you to generate text quickly without judgment on a specific topic. You'll tend to write incomplete sentences in free writing, but there should be no proofreading involved. So if there are misspelled or misused words, that's fine. If you have fragment sentences, that's okay too. You must turn off your internal editor to let your ideas flow. When you have your topic, set your timer. 5 to 10 minutes is plenty to start, and let your pen or fingers fly. So here, if it's a little fuzzy, what I've just read, let's say in the informative piece, you're kind of proofreading it at the same time, and spell checking or fact checking, probably more common. And here it's like, just right, man, as fast as you can go, right? So you don't have to proofread it. If there's misspelled words, who cares? You write hamburglu instead of hamburger, you'll deal with that later. It's just you want to get the volume there as quick as possible. That's what they're worried. Okay. And that's why they say set your timer 5 to 10 minutes, because you're going to be hustling, baby. You're going to be hustling. Mind mapping, that might be a new one for you. Another method for exploration goes by many names. Mind mapping. Mapping, clustering, etc. So clustering is like you have a cluster of dirt. It means you might have a whole handful of dirt, right? That's a cluster. This is a visual way of seeing the connections between your ideas and organizing them. To start, you put the topic in the center of the page, like what I said earlier, monkey likes hot dogs, and then draw a circle around it. Then you add other details, drawing circles around those in lines of connection. Like maybe you make another bubble and it says, monkey only likes beef hot dogs, not pork, draw a circle around that. And then he only likes a certain brand. Then the next is the size, right? So like I said, here would be monkey likes hot dog. Here is monkey only likes beef hot dog, not pork. Monkey likes only Oscar Mayer hot dogs, right? So that's how you do this. So this is a graphic example of a cluster map. But like I said, a handful of dirt is like, would be a dirt. The mind map can then act as a sort of outline for your essay. Seeing those connections in this visual way shows you where you might need more detail or example, and you can take those ideas to organize into paragraphs. Okay, so again, what they're trying to say here is that your main topic, and as you start looking at these things, you say, okay, what would be first, right? What would be second? What would flow? So obviously, before you talk about that, because what did I say here? Monkey likes hot dogs. Monkey likes only beef. That's a good way to start. Get the actual meat he likes out of the way. And then monkey likes, let's say, monkey likes a certain size. Monkey likes foot-long hot dogs only. He doesn't like the regular size. So we've got um, the kind of meat he likes, the size, and then the last one would be it's only Oscar Mayer, right? And then boom, 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 you're just starting to tear into your paper. You know, you have other ones here. Monkey has to have mustard. Monkey needs onions. Uh, you know, so you're into the condiments here. So you start with the basic meat and the brand, then the condiments, and then maybe here you can end the paper like monkey only eats at baseball games, you know. And then monkey only likes the Dodgers, right? And then your last one, monkey only goes to night games, right? And now you have a whole paper. You put them step by step. Like it says, the mind map can then act as a sort of outline for the essay. And we have the writer's notebook. Many authors who get paid for their work keep notebooks they fill with their ideas. Similar to a traditional journal, as ideas occur to them, they see or hear interesting things throughout their days, or they find snippets of material as they're reading other work, then record it in a notebook. Sometimes it's a traditional bound paper book, but technology has allowed writers to do this digitally too. Some utilize a smartphone's camera, and others use apps like Evernote to archive material as they find it. The point, though, is to be open to topic possibilities all around you and capture them in real time to refer to later. Okay? So, again, it's like don't lose your past ideas. Write them now. Write them down because now maybe you don't have the time or you can't fit them in a paper the way you want to write. But as you continue to do this process, later a certain topic or opportunity might present itself. So that's why they say the point, though, is to be open to topic possibilities all around you and capture them in real time to refer to later. So now you're going to get some advice for trying to find a topic, right? The best advice for exploring. If you're not sure what to write about, and again, this can be all of us, it's been me. The writing assignment is open-ended. Consider two things, your passion and your personal experience. And that's what I've always told my students to make it easy that suffer from this, right? They don't know what to write about, you know, X, Y, Z. If I say, is there something you really, really like? You know, like let's say it's music. And that maybe you actually play an instrument. Well, that's your passion. That should be easy to write about. You don't really play it well after a year, so it takes time. So you have a lot of history there. And then, of course, your personal experience. Your personal experience can be about your passion, but it also can be about other things that are possibly not your passion. But don't be confused there. I'll make this real obvious. There's many books that people write about being in prison. Okay, that's their personal experience. Heck, even Mike Tyson wrote about being in prison. He said, you know, it was not bad. But again, that's a celebrity. But anyway, for most people, it's hell. So that person is writing about their personal experience, but obviously that is not their passion. Like music or art, or a lot of young guys could write. It's like I'll tell them, how many years have you been skateboarding? 9 years, man, 9 years. Shoot, 9 years is a lot to write about. You know, you've had accidents, maybe some injuries, you've been in some competition, How did it feel to begin? How did it feel to master things? So think of those two things first. It's the best advice. What's my passion? Your passion could be hamburgers. I had a student from Japan one time, and he was only going to be here for a year. And he asked me to take him to every hamburger place that I knew of in Los Angeles. He wanted to try them all. Okay? So there you go. And that would be a good paper. That would be an interesting paper. Ask yourself, what makes me angry, frustrated, or irritated? See, on the opposite end, you can easily write about things that make you angry. Maybe Los Angeles is traffic, right? Uh, maybe beautiful girls that will not date you. I don't know. Makes you frustrated. Next, what makes me happy, satisfied, excited? Again, could it be that hamburger? Could it be going to the Laker game and watching LeBron in person, where it used to be Kobe? You know, or what am I really good at? You know, again, are you good at playing the guitar? Are you good at doing taekwondo? Hopefully no one says, teacher, I'm good at setting cars on fire. Can I write a paper about that? It might not go over well. Yeah. Next, how do I spend my days? Some people have really interesting days. So that would be a really interesting paper. I remember when I was in college, uh, some guy wrote this paper like, oh, I like to go to Chinatown and eat and then see, like a kung fu movie. And then in the afternoon, I go to Olvera Street, which is kind of like a Mexican town. And I go have Mexican food there and hang out and listen to Mexican music. And then in the night, let's say he went to Little Tokyo and went to an izakaya and got in a drinking contest. So the teacher read that and she said, wow, what an interesting guy. You really like a lot of, international things. And you go from here, there to these different cities in LA. And it's pretty cool. So there you go again. Your day could be a real good source for a paper. And then finally here, what are interesting things that happen? Again, some people might have had a boring life. I talk about my one friend, a good old Fred Bob there once in a while. He's basically worked at the same job, I think, for 20 years. And nothing really excited has happened there. And he's fine about that. But I've worked some jobs, and in a very short time, a lot of strange things happen. That's just at jobs, right? But I mean, you know, your life too. So, I've had interesting things happen to me in the state of New Mexico, the country of the Dominican Republic. I thought I was going to be killed in that country. I kind of got lost in Amsterdam before, which was at night, which was very scary, right? So, there's a number of things. I worked security one time, and a big part of my job was protecting Michael Jackson's dead body. You can believe that. Protected from who? Crazy women from all over the world, and he wanted to spend the night by his coffin. So I've had some interesting things happen. So again, could be the basis for a good paper. Next, brainstorm as many answers as possible for these questions. So you brainstorm as many answers for each one. So let's say if you had 4 for each one, 4, 8, 12, 16, 24. No, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Okay. Wow. And you'll have many possible topic choices or free write on them, each for a short time, and compare what you come up with. Find the best. In the end, however, you will decide where to go based on your audience and purpose. So we go back to that from the week before. So again, what it doesn't mention here is that you'll also find, okay, we got 4 each, right? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. And let's say we're looking at that 7-page, breakdown from the beginning of this chapter. So you find out this one, only you can do 3 pages. But you can do 4 with what makes you happy. Then you can do 5 with what I'm really good at. 6 is maybe 6. And then your whole life, now you hit the 7 easy. So you'll say, I've got so much more to write about here than these. It's an easy choice, right? And you'll avoid the thing of someone just picking anything and then they can only write 3 pages. Okay. And now we'll get into gathering the facts. While such an approach is not the only ingredient for scholastic success or success in your college, you'll find that the vast majority of your assigned reading requires a thorough recall of the facts, which means you must completely remember the facts. The reading comprehension must be at a high level. Facts are building blocks that give credibility to concepts and ideas. Your ability to gather and assimilate these facts will dramatically enhance your success at remembering what the author wanted to communicate. If, however, you spend so much time studying the trees that you lose sight of the forest, your reading effectiveness will be limited. You must learn to discern what facts are salient to your understanding. Salient is kind of like, it's a very high level word. It kind of like means what's important. And then discern is a high level word for figure out. I remember college teachers. I'm reading your paper and I'm trying to discern, what the facts are. So trying to understand, figure out, and then which ones to leave for the next Trivial Pursuit update. They're being funny here. That's a joke if you don't know Trivial Pursuit. So again, it's like I've said prior, you can't give your statements and ideas and say this is your actual statement and you stand by it without facts. You can't. Like we're having this thing, I guess it started with the lady soccer player, but then I don't know if it's so confusing now, right? If she would be like me to call her lady, I think she's a lesbian. I don't know if she goes farther than that. I don't know. But she was angry that the men's soccer players, get paid more than the women. Now, I've heard some women that support her, and they just say, the same with the women's basketball league, we could use that example too, that the women basketball players are better than the men. Now, you can say that, and that's your thinking. But if you want to try to prove it, you have to have facts. And I really doubt that, let's say you have the best women's basketball team and they play the Lakers. I don't think they're going to win. That's just for whatever it is. So, you can't just throw these ideas out there. This is what I believe. Right? It's just like you could be let's say you're a very small girl, you're barely 5 feet tall, you weigh 99 pounds, and you do some, let's say you do some judo, maybe even you have a black belt. And then you say, I could beat every sumo wrestler in the world. Again, you can say that, but when a guy 350 pounds, 370 pounds comes out, and you're 99 pounds and 5 feet tall, and he's 6'3", I don't think you're going to beat him. I just don't, So you got to back up your ideas with facts. So you have to find the facts that are important to your understanding and then leave the silly ones for your later trivial pursuit. Okay? If you're trying to identify your purpose for reading this chapter, it's threefold. One, to develop the skill of scanning a text for facts as quickly as possible. A lot of people start doing that first, They don't start right away, okay, I'm going to read this thing and try to comprehend everything, right? No, they just go, first reading, I'm just going to skim with my finger, and I'm going to pick up things like Lincoln, United States government, Washington, D.C., Capitol building, Civil War, right? And they do that first. And then two, you try to distinguish or differentiate between an important detail and a trivial one. So again, like if you're doing a historical piece on Lincoln, you would want to concentrate on like what kind of legislature he legalized or things that he put into place that helped regular folks or freeing the slaves or ending the Civil War, and stay away from the trivial ones like, oh, Lincoln liked eating apples. It's like that's not what's going to make your paper go when you're trying to back them up with facts. Again, just imagine if you wrote a paper the complete opposite way. Your title, of your paper is the ways that Abraham Lincoln improved life for all Americans, including slaves. And then your paper concentrates on he liked apples, he liked to drink a little wine, he liked to go to the opera. People are going to say, that's fine, but you haven't listed anything telling me in which ways that he improved life for American people. So make sure you distinguish, folks. 3, to learn how to skim text. Reading and absorbing a sentence even when you're not looking for anything in particular. So there you might find something odd that you didn't think that you would find. It's not necessarily trivial, but it's odd. I don't know how far back your guys' history goes, like if you know about the Cuban Missile Crisis, where Nikita Khrushchev of Russia put Russian missiles on Cuba aimed at the United States. And that it started, like a Cold War between him and President Kennedy, right? And they had to get out of that without what people feared at the time, Russia firing those missiles at the United States and starting World War III, right? So I read something sometime about that, and I knew that they had to talk. And if you remember at the UN, the speech by Khrushchev, and he took off his shoe and he hit the table and said, I will crush you, the United States. So anyway, I found out again something not trivial, but something I wasn't looking for, that a person that spoke between the two of them secretly behind closed doors and tried to make them not fight was the Pope, the Catholic Pope. So that's a pretty cool thing. That's not trivial. So, that's when you're not looking for anything in particular and you find something good. A hidden gem, as they say. Okay. Hopefully you follow me on that. I mean, it was before my time too, but we're taught that in school here. Okay. Deciphering the message. So deciphering is like they give you a code and you have to figure out. That's another high level word there. The author of any kind of writing should have something to say, a message to communicate. Unfortunately, such messages are often lost in the glut of verbiage many authors use to dress up their basic point. Okay, now I know some American people that don't know what that means. Okay. Luckily, I've heard this term before. So this crazy stuff here, unfortunately, such messages, right? You're trying to find the message of what the author is saying, are lost in the glut of verbiage. Verbiage means using too many fancy words, and they use it to dress up their basic point. Um, so a lot of writers will try to write in these fancy terms, and you'll get lost trying to follow them and find the exact point. There's some professors I remember back in the day, they would also speak like that. They thought it was below themselves to speak as a normal person because they were a professor, right? A college professor. The regular, like the regular English is you go in and you interrupt someone and they say, please don't bother me, right? And you run into one of these stuffy college professors and they'll say, please don't discombobulate me. You're discombobulating at the present time. It's like, what the hell? You don't have to talk like that. Nobody talks like that in real life, but they want to sound good, right? They want to sound, ooh, yeah, yeah. So forget that kind of stuff. It's your job to rake through the mess and get to the heart of the text. So if you run across this kind of verbiage or wordage, I think Hillary Clinton came up with a modern slang term for that, a word salad, which person talks to you with a word salad, you're like, what does that actually mean? What are you trying to say? So it's your job to get a rake, like when the leaves fall off the trees and rake through the mess and get to the heart of the text. You need to approach each reading assignment with the mindset of Sherlock Holmes. We all know him, the famous detective from England. There is a mystery to be solved, and you are the master detective. The goal is to figure out what the text is trying to communicate, regardless of how deeply it is buried in the quagmire of convoluted language. So here's another way of saying glut of verbiage. Quagmire is like a swamp where alligators and snakes live. And then convoluted language, which is just, again, discombobulate. There's no reason to say that. You could just say you bother me, making me uneasy or something like that, right? All right. What is the message? The first step in any good investigation is to collect all of the clues. Okay? What are the facts? By spending a few minutes of your time discerning these concrete facts, you will be far better equipped, which means more ready to digest or understand what is the author trying to communicate. But how do you extract the facts when they appear to be hidden in an impenetrable forest of words? Again, another way of saying the quagmire or the previous ones, right? You may need a little help from who, what, when, where, why, and how. It seems that the facts steadily sally forth or come forth, no sallies here, when these 6 trusty questions are called upon the scene. So this is what actual real detectives use to find out information on a case, a murder case, what have you. And it applies in your reading comprehension. Scanning, skimming, reading, remembering. Most everyone I know confuses skim and scan. Let me set the record straight. Skim is to read quickly and superficially. You're not trying to understand the whole page. Scan is to read carefully, but for specific items. So you're looking for the main points only. So when you skim a reading selection, you are reading it in its entirety, though you're only hitting the highlights. When you scan a selection, You are reading it in detail, but only until you find what you're looking for. Scanning is the technique we all employ when using the phone book. Unless, of course, you're in the habit of reading every name in the book to find the one that you're looking for. When you scan, your eyes do not look at every word, read every sentence, and think about every paragraph. Instead, they rapidly move across the page to find just what you are looking for and then read that carefully. Scanning is the fastest reading rate of all. Although you are reading in detail, you are not seeking to comprehend or remember anything that you see until you find the bit of information you're looking for. So remember, scanning is the fastest reading rate. That might be a question. Midterm. When I was in college, I would begin any assignment by reading the first sentence of every paragraph and trying to answer the question at the chapter's end. If this did not give me a pretty good idea of the content and important details of that chapter, then and only then would I read it more thoroughly. I'm sure this method of skimming for the facts saved me countless hours of time and then boredom. So there's a strategy that someone's giving you for free here. And that's unfortunate that a lot of people do feel that reading is boring. So that's why he said if he can make this a success, he would not be bored and he'd be off to do other things that he wanted to do. Okay, so we're off into the questions. Look like I'm gonna let you go a little early this week because I know you're still. We just started the quarter and then we had a holiday, so I know we're kind of slowly getting into this stuff. So here we go. Composition questions. When you first start writing, what are the two things you should do? Okay. Hopefully I don't get silly boys that say, oh, the first thing I should do is open the book and then turn the page. Or this is writing, right? That would be reading. So the first thing I do is pick up my pen and then press the top so the ink comes out. Okay, that's not what we're looking for here. 2, what is brainstorming? That should be pretty straightforward. Don't confuse it with the business brainstorming. If you're taking a business class, that has to deal with a group of people throwing ideas around. This is you personally, your own personal brainstorming and the techniques that follow. Next 3, free writing allows you to do what? And again, I've had silly students. It allows me to start scribbling on the paper. Not at all. 4, what kind of way is mind mapping? So give me a little explanation about mind mapping. I told you it was a little confusing, but I gave you the best definitions I could. We got into that. Okay, 5, if you are still not sure what to write about, which 2 things should you consider? I went over that intensely. There's 2 areas that everyone has that you should be able to write about easily or find something in those 2 categories that you can write about. Okay. Reading question. 6, the vast majority of your assigned reading requires what? And again, don't be silly and say, it requires me to turn it in. That's not what we're looking for here. 7, the author of any kind of writing should have what to say. Now, what should they have to say? It's not about good things or bad things, but something, at least in the reading and writing, something more important. Okay. 8, facts come forth when which 6 words are used. So you have a paper, you're confused, You want to gather the facts so you can understand the paper. Which 6 words will you use to find those facts? AKA just like Sherlock Holmes. Next 9, explain skim and scam. I went over those. So they are American people get confused. They think it's the same thing. You skim and you scam. It's the same thing. Kick off your left shoe and put on your right sock. It's like, no, they are actually different in speed and technique. So explain those two. So that's like a 2-answer question there. Okay, just like you have to write 6 words for 8. Then 10, skimming can save you a lot of, I don't want to hear, money at the gas pump or tax during tax return time. No, skimming can save you a lot of what? If you remember the writer, he said it was 2 things actually. Look at the best one of those 2 things. Okay. All right, folks. We're going to stop share. So again, this is assignment 3, slated for January 30th. Okay. And the next time we talk, it will be February. Okay. And then the year will start just tapping it out, even though it still feels like, is it the end of December? Christmas passed, but the New Year's not here. So, good tidings to everyone. So I shall talk to you very soon. Okay. And hopefully I'll have this computer screen thing figured out without having to pay. Okay. Thank you much.